It was an early afternoon in Canterlot. Shining Armor had just finished his training for the day and had a time off rest of the day. But since he had no particular plans for the day, so he decided to just walk around in town just to see what else to do. But there was one thing else on his mind though. Quite recently, he had actually had his 3 years long term relationship with a mare broken up with him. He was devastated because one day he found out that she was fallen in love with some other stallion and he was really heartbroken. He couldn't believe he couldn't believe that she just broken up with him after 3 years. And in fact, he was even planning to propose to her. And he was very devastated about it. But some of his close friends in the Royal Guard told him it's part of the national life. And it's just try to move on that he will find somebody else to be with. And he was like, yeah, you made right about that. That just I don't feel like I want to do dating at any moment. Well, maybe not for quite some time. Some of his royal guards had suggested he take a time off from his duties for maybe a week or so to spend time with family. But he didn't have any time to do that. But it turns out that the same afternoon when he got back to the castle, to the castle, he was approached by Celestia. Celestia suggested that he did take time off from his duties. It turns out some other guards had talking about it and she only overheard it. If at first he tried to deny that he needed any time off. But Celestia didn't give him an order. There was only a suggestion that he go see some maybe spend time with Twilight. Since Twilight and Shining Armor haven't been able to spend enough time together since recently. Since he is a captain of the Royal Guard and she is the princess of friendship in Ponyville. So she decided to let send them there to spend time with his sister. And after a moment he thought, why not? I haven't even seen my sister in a while, and yeah. So he agreed. So he told his guards that he won't be back for about a week. So he pointed out his second in command to leading the guard while he's away. And on the train to Ponyville by the very next day, he was actually not nervous, but he was just excited. He was going to see his sister after a long time. She was just happy to see him at the train station again. Shining Armor gave his sister a hug and they went back to the castle, where Spike and Starlight had already arranged some lunch for them. They were just talking, and Twilight said that she was sorry about his breakup and she felt sorry about it. He smiled and said that he understood and also that it was fine, that maybe it wasn't meant for him to be this long term as he had hoped for. The rest of the afternoon, they were actually just walking around in town and just spent time together. And even she chatted with some of her friends and went to a restaurant in the evening for her dinner. But the next day, sadly, Twilight will be occupied by the School of Friendship most of the noon. So, Shining Armor, he didn't mind to spend time by himself, and he spent most of his noon around lunchtime about reading some of his old comic books that he brought with him, and some also borrowed some of Spike's comic books. But other than that, there was a lot of things that was still going around in his mind. Will he ever find a new girlfriend to be with? It was a lot of things that went through his mind, all those thoughts. Could it have been something he could prevent it? Or was it something that if there was signs of this breakup was even in approaching him, or if he has ever saw any signs of it? But ever he thought about it clearly and almost intensely, but he realized there were no signs of any of eventual breakup. Because even though they did spend a lot of time together, but he had never been any such bad comments to her. He was never rude, never behaved any badly, and if he was late for the dinner or something, he always apologized and even took her out the next day for dinner instead as an apology. He even actually spent a lot of time when he on their 2 years anniversary. He even took her for a cruise for a whole weekend. It was one of things few things that he actually enjoyed. But now he has been thinking, what if? What if I wasn't supposed to be with her at all? Maybe it was just temporarily. But at least he was no longer concerned of this relationship anymore. And the rest of the week, Shining Armor actually had a great time with Twilight, Spike, and her friends. They actually went a lot of they often went to the bowling alley or went out eating in restaurants for dinner or just having a game night at the castle playing board games or just reading during do together. He said to Twilight that just for one day at the train station, he said that he will be back as soon as possible. She gave him a hug and said that she will always could see him as possible as food herself soon. But when he got back to Canton, there was still a lot of things in his mind, like what will he do now? Will he try to find a new girlfriend or something else? But when he arrived back to the castle, he actually ran into Princess Rose, the daughter of Shooting Star and Luna. Rose was actually just out there, just in the castle, just walking around. She was just bored herself when she saw Shining Armor. She greeted him, welcome back to Cancelot, and he said same thing. She asked him if he had a good time back in camp in Ponyville with his sister. He said, "Yeah, I actually had a good time. It's always a good time spent with my sister. It's always the same thing. Always relaxing. The best thing I can actually do." She smiled and said that she understood. But then he left to go back to his barracks with the other royal guards who greeted him, and he asked his second in command what any situation has been happening or something like that. Just about the being kept up with this information that has been happening recently. And the guard said nothing much into import to report. Only like a few incidents where some of the guards had made some smaller injuries during trap practice training, but nothing is much serious to report. In Shining Armor, he accepted it and went back to his royal duties as before. Even the following weeks afterwards, Shining Armor was actually back to normal as himself. But there was one thing that he really wanted to do, is to try dating again. But he didn't know exactly who he had been dating. But one of his follows guards told him about this speed dating service that was located in town, and Shining Armor actually heard about this, and he knew about how it works, so he decided to go there on Friday when he had a time off. On Friday afternoon, Shining Armor went straight to this speed dating service location, and he was actually very much surprised that there were a lot of mares and even stallions into this place. After signing in, he was to put in different mares during the time he was staying there, but unfortunately, some of the mares was not was his type, not some interest, or they thought potential, but in the end, there was nothing. But it was only one particular mare near the end of the surface he had some form of connection to, or at least had some common interest. Even afterwards, he asked her if she wanted to go out, and she said yes. So they actually went to the movies and they actually had a good time. And for next couple of weeks, they actually went out several times, and it seems to be working quite well, even though they haven't made it official yet. But Shining Armor wanted to make sure that he wanted to wait at least dating a mare for at least about a couple of weeks or maybe as a month or two, just to make sure it could make a long term relationship. But after nearly just almost a month, she told him that she was no longer interested in dating him. He asked why. She said that she and may have found somebody else to be with. And he understood and said that I understand. And I wish you good luck. And, well, at least it was a good time to get to know you better. She smiled and said yes. And once again, Shining Armor was very devastated. He could see a potential long term relationship with that mare. But even though they weren't official couple yet, so they weren't in much like a breakup, but it felt like it. That same afternoon, he just walking around and he suddenly ended up at the park when he suddenly saw something. Princess Rose. He was a little bit surprised to see her, but even without any real guards. So he walked up to her and asked if something was wrong. It turns out she has been crying. And she said that nothing was wrong, you just have a bad day, she said. But he sat down and asked once again, because he said, you can tell me anything. I'm here, I'm your friend, you can tell me. Turns out that she was waiting for her boyfriend to show up. Rose actually had been dating a stallion for about at least 3 months. And it was looking forward to being quite serious. But it turns out as she was waiting, a male pony showed up, gave her a letter telling that he's not coming, that he's not showing up at all. Turns out he had fallen in love with someone another mayor, and he was leaving town for that. She was devastated, and he said to her, "I feel exactly what you feel." She looked at him in surprise and asked, "What do you mean?" And then he explained, and she was a little bit stunned. I'm so sorry to hear that. It's fine. I mean, I have been even we weren't even official yet, so it wouldn't count as a breakup. Yeah, but it kind of feels like it though. He said. She smiled and said, "Wow, at least you know what I've been going through." Yeah, that's true. But then suddenly she asked if he would like to go out with her. He was a little bit surprised. He didn't even expected Princess Rose to ask him out. But since considering that haven't been in a serious relationship for a time, but he agreed. They actually agreed to go on this restaurant the same evening. Even went back at the barracks, uh, Shining Armor informed some of his second in command and some of the guards he was going out with Princess Rose. They were all shocked, like, whoa, 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 Shining Armor, are you serious? You and Princess Rose going out? Said one of the guards. Another guard said, whoa, Shining Armor, you are real lucky. You know that? And Shining Armor just said, well, this is just only one date, he said. We aren't like a couple yet. Even if there's possibility it could have been me and her, but I'm just saying, I really want to be just to make sure I don't screw that chance up, he said. But one guard said, Shining Armor, you really need to go to relax. It will go fine. Yeah, said another guard. Yeah, it will go be perfectly fine. Even though she is a little bit shy herself, but she's just amazing pony to be around. She's always at this very funny, hilarious personality. She's like you. Shining Armor nodded and said, yeah, you're probably right. So they actually went out to this restaurant. At first, it's a little silence between them because they didn't know what even to talk about at first, but Shining Armor broke the silence and say, I am actually still surprised that you even asked me out. But I actually enjoyed it so far. She nodded and smiled and said, yeah, same here. She was a little bit shy still, but after a while though, she started to feel more comfortable around him. And they ordered some food and after that some dessert and just having a good time. Even afterwards, he went back to the castle with her as to make sure that she came home safely. After all, she is a royal princess. He would have been in much serious trouble if she ended up in any harm. He could lose his position as a royal guard, or even worse, be banished to the moon for about 1,000 years. He joked. But Princess Rose said, my parents would even do that. She said, I know. It's just, I just want to let you be harmed. That's it. And for the next couple of days afterwards, the guards was actually happy to see the first date between Rose and Shining Armor went well. But it was at least some part of that he wished that maybe this could be something, but he was also prepared this was only gonna be just one time date only. But he decided why not to give a chance to see if it can actually be a second date. So when he had the opportunity, he asked her, and she said yes. So for the next couple of weeks after the second date, they had actually been on several dates. But they never made it official until like when they were at least 3 months of dating. And Princess Rose actually felt happy. Ever since her first boyfriend just left her like that, she was actually feeling heartbroken. She wasn't sure if this was gonna last any longer, but having a pony like Shining Armor in her life, she felt happy. For some one reason, he actually felt that might be the right one. That he is could be her soulmate. After all, he has a good record. He is very polite, not overall. He's a captain of the Royal Guard for sake. That is the one of the things that actually make her feel safe. And he always protected her, even if there were some ponies that walked up to them and asked for autograph. Even though he wasn't some ponies would say he is an overprotective boyfriend, but he wasn't that. He was not only her boyfriend, but also the Royal Guard captain. And his role, even when he was off duty, he was always make sure to follow his main duty to protect the royal family to no matter what, even if he's off duty. And police actually had actually accepted Shining Armor as Rose's boyfriend. And he was just happy to be there. And during the first winter in Canterlot, Rose actually had invited Shining Armor to celebrate Heartwarming Eve with her family, and which he accepted, since his parents was actually going to Trottingham to spend time with some other relatives, and Twilight was going to be with them, and he decided why not celebrate the holiday with Rose. But there was another thing about this. A lot of things was going through his mind. He was hoping that maybe this could be a long-term relationship. When he was alone, he said to himself, I may wonder if she could be the one that I have been looking for. I may propose to her, but I might just wait for that, he said to himself. And in fact, 3 years later, after on their third year's anniversary, Shining Armor actually took her to the same restaurant on the one they had their first dinner date at. And he was planning on something quite special. And in fact, he proposed to her, and she said yes immediately. Shining Armor was really excited and happy. When they told their friends and families, every single one was actually overjoyed. It was unexpected, even though they had been dating for 3 years. But if we look like back in the first long-term relationship Shining Armor had also lasted 3 years, and also what he was planning to propose. He was expecting maybe this same thing would happen again, but it didn't. He was just happy, and he had actually had asked Soren, a close friend of his, to be his best man, and that Spike to be the ring bearer, which he also accepted. And Prince Rose, she had asked her mom and Twilight to be her bridesmaids, which they both accepted. Celestia decided to perform the ceremony at the castle, at Canterlot Castle. Afterwards, they all went to the party, which Pinky had happily arranged. And every single Pony of the guests actually had this amazing time. Seeing the amazing food, the amazing dance too. It's just amazing wedding. Even both families could see how happy Shining Armor and Princess Rose were together. It was just happy for them. Both families were actually happy that to see Rose and Shining Armor had been found the one that they want to be with. And just to see how this pure happiness was just amazing. And not only that, Discord actually had a special surprise for Shining Armor. He actually snapped his fingers and made Shining Armor immortal, as since Rose were immortal. But then it was time for them to go to the honeymoon, and they actually went to a tropical island for 2 whole weeks. And on the honeymoon, though, they actually had this amazing time swimming in the ocean, playing beach ball, or just doing some sightseeing. They could have been happier on this honeymoon together, and not only that, they had opened a new chapter in their lives. And 3 years after they had been married, both Shining Armor and Rose actually announced they were expecting their first foal within the next couple of months. And they couldn't have been happier. Then the day came. The first daughter what they had, they named her Skyer. Skyer was like her mother, very talented magic, and her father's the same. She was very outgoing, very calmly of herself growing up. But it was something else that she loved to do most. She loved to writing books. She wanted to be an author one day. And most of it was in her inspiration of Daring Do. And in fact, when she was 19, she published her first mystery book. It became a success. She was just happy that fulfilled her childhood dream. And at some point, she even got married with a stallion who also worked as a doctor. And they actually had 2 daughters, and both were actually alicorns. 3 years later, they had a son, which they named Chaos. Chaos was like his father, brave, loyal, and didn't hesitate to defend his friends and family from any harm. And in fact, he wanted to follow his father's footsteps. And when he was old enough, he joined the Royal Guard Academy and trained to be as a Royal Guard one day. And when he was 21, he actually had to become as a full member of the Royal Guards. And despite being a prince, he didn't see much himself as a prince, more as a guard. But it was one of the things. He wanted to be the next royal guard of the captives, like his father was. And one day, when his father actually did retire as a captain of the royal guard, his son was the option to be the next one in line, if he wanted it, which he accepted. He also later marries another royal guard, a female, which they also had two daughters, and one of them actually became a unicorn and one became an alicorn. 4 years later, they had a daughter which they named Rose, like their mother. She was very outgoing and she loved to play around with her friends, and she was actually born as a Pegasus. And she loved to flying around with her mother, and she even loved to do something else. As a filly, she actually got her cutie mark by a random accident while she was making perfume. And with that, it sparked an interest in her that she wanted making her own perfume. When she was about 21, she actually decided and to open her own shop. So she moved to Baltimore and opened her own small perfume shop, and it actually became a good success. She was just happy that she had managed to fulfill her childhood dream. And even at some point there, she even married a teacher, and they even had two sons and one daughter together. 3 years later, they had another daughter which they named Royal. Royal was very much like her mother. She was very polite, she was well mannered, but even it happens that she had her outburst if someone was offended her or something, but she was always calmly, and she didn't have any problems to make friends. But like her older sister Rose, she also wanted to do something with her life. And when she was about 12, she actually got inspiration to be a teacher when she saw her aunt Twilight. And when she was old enough, she actually decided to go trying to at least apply for this school of being teacher, and she was accepted in. And after a while of studying, she actually had to come as a teacher, and she decided to start working in Cantlot at the middle school. And it was actually going well for her. She even fell in love with another teacher, and they actually got married and have two sons and one daughter together. She was just happy to fulfill her dream. Shining Armor could have been happier actually when he found his true soulmate within Rose. After his first long term ended up in a breakup, and without not knowing if he's gonna find his true soulmate ever all. But when he actually fell in love with Rose, he could have been happier. But even so, of a lot of things between that Shining Armor and Rose, even her including herself, was could have been happier to have found her true soulmate within Shining Armor. Even to be with the one they love the most of all in the whole world. It is the most thing they actually just being happy. And even having an amazing family with one they love the most as well. They couldn't have been happier though. So this is how Shining Armor and Princess Rose found a true love, got a big family together. The end.